Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I am your host. I'm pretty excited about the guy I've got on today. He's like one of these secret weapons almost. Like he's in the background making everybody famous throughout the world. I'm kidding, not everybody. I'm not his client yet. But anyway, without any more from me, I want to welcome Mr. Bruce Serbin to the show. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ken. Great to be here.
Man, I'm excited to have you on. We have a very good mutual friend, Lisa Copeland, that introduced us.
Yep.
Lisa is quite the connector, isn't she?
Absolutely. I love Lisa. She's great.
She's amazing. So Bruce, this show, I developed it to to help people have a breakthrough in life, because I think everybody in life, we hit those walls, we hit those blocks in life, and we don't know how to get through it or around it or whatever. And I think that we gain a lot of power by hearing other people's stories of overcoming those things, right? So let's start with you. Let's talk about where you were born and raised.
Sure. So I'm from Florida, and I tell people I'm from Florida, and then they're like, well, where were you born? And I'm like, no, I was born in Florida, because I guess it's funny, most people around my age, there really aren't that many true native Floridians. And I guess, my parents just came down here. They were from up north in New York, and, they wanted to get out of the cold. And so they got married and came down here before they had me. So I was born and raised here. And it's so funny when I tell people that, because, they always look at me, but, have that funny look like, wow, a true native Floridian. But, and then I grew up down here. I obviously live down here now, and went to school out in Tampa, and then before my wife and I got married, she got offered an internship up in Boston. And I was so excited about this because I had never seen snow, never really been around cold weather. And I'm stoked, right? I'm like, let's go. We're going to Boston. So we move everything. We go up to Boston, and, it was like right in the middle of winter. And I just looked at her. I said, okay, it's either me or Boston. We're going back. And, we luckily she chose me, and, we came back here and, lived down here ever since.
So you'd never seen snow.
I had never seen it, and the first time, you're all excited, and I'm running out like a little kid, playing with it, making snowballs, throwing it around. And then I'm like, after a while, it's like, okay, wait a minute, I gotta go to work in this and shovel it off the driveway.
Right.
And you realize, wait a minute, I want to go back to Florida, this is so great.
That's funny, man. Yeah. I woke up yesterday morning here in Ohio, and we had frost all over the ground.
Yeah, we're 95 degrees still outside.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Well, I lived in the desert out in Vegas for a year. So, no, the desert's not fun.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. But I think I'm going to be a Floridian. We don't love the hurricane season so much, but the rest of the time it's pretty great.
Now, are you on the East Coast or West Coast?
We're in the East Coast,
Okay.
sort of, between like Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. Actually, it's kind of a sad story, because up until about a year ago, nobody had ever heard of the city that I lived in. And now I tell people, well, I live in Parkland, Florida. And of course, everybody, oh, that's where the school shooting was.
Oh.
And yeah, that's about, about a mile down the street from where we live.
Oh my
and
gosh, man.
it's, I didn't personally know anybody, in the school, anyone who lost their lives, but, I knew friends who knew people, and it's just, you can't imagine what it does. This is, a real tight-knit, real close community, and generally a very safe place. That's why people live here, very nice. And then this just, you can't even imagine. I mean, words can't even describe really what it was like.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was awful, man.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that's a cop down there in Hollywood, so that's terrible. But so is that where you grew up? Was that area?
In this area, the city I grew up, most people have heard of Coral Springs. It's a little to the south, one city over to the south. And I grew up there, went to school there, and then went to college out in Tampa on the West Coast. And I think I still like the East Coast a little bit better. I still go out there a lot to see some friends or for business. But just, born, raised here, friends, family here, and just always kind of came back to this coast. So Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you this, like as a kid and, in high school, like, all your buddies here in Ohio, you get all your friends together in a group and you all, go to Daytona or somewhere for spring break. If you're born and raised in Florida, where in God's name do you vacation, number one? And number two, where do you go for spring break? Like down the street?
Pretty much, I mean, Fort Lauderdale Beach was the big thing for some time, and then it moved north up to Daytona, and, sometimes you'd go down a little south down to the Keys, Key Largo, Key West, people go out to the Bahamas is pretty close, not too far, but yeah, we don't have to venture very far. It's like paradise,
That's
it's
crazy, man.
Pretty great. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you went to high school there. You went to did you go to college?
I did. So I went to high school down here in South Florida, then went to college in Tampa at the University of Tampa.
Okay.
Great little school and right in the heart of downtown. It was great, living actually in downtown Tampa, good sized city, not the biggest city in the world, but certainly a good sized city, and very, very different experience, kind of going from the suburbs into like a major city. But it was a lot of fun, I wasn't what you would call, the model student, that's for sure, had a lot of fun and, like a lot of us, and and yeah, but college was great for two reasons. Obviously it was a great, learning and social and friends and whatnot. But I actually got my start in my career in college. When I was growing up, my dream was to work in TV news, right? I wanted to be a TV news reporter. And so when I was in college in my junior year, I got my first break. I got an internship with the Fox affiliate out in Tampa, Florida. And it was a phenomenal experience, kind of working in the newsroom and, hands-on experience and kind of shadowing the photographers and the reporters and going out into the fields and seeing what it takes to put a newscast together. It was just a phenomenal experience. And that really helped set me up, for my career. So it was a great experience.
With So what I'm doing with this show, you've done, like, but on real TV. That's awesome. So with the what was your major? Was it like media or something or?
Yeah, so my major was communications.
Okay.
And yeah, again, just wanted to go into broadcast journalism.
Right.
That was my big thing. So the school I was at the time didn't really have a specific broadcast journalism program. It was just a general communications program. But the advantage of being in a large city like Tampa, it's a pretty big size media market. So, getting a chance to intern and then eventually get hired at this TV station, you can't beat that. It was just great experience.
So what now, I know you now own your own company and we'll get into that, but, before we get into that, let's talk about some of because typically you don't come out of college, get one job, and that's it for life. Like that happens, but it's rare anymore, right? So,
absolutely.
So what were some of the things that you did after college?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's some really great stories, So when I was an intern, the beauty of that was I really got to experience just every aspect of the TV news business. And I'm telling you, like, we would go out, just some crazy stories. We would go out and actually go on these ride-alongs with the local police, with the Tampa Police Department, and we'd ride along when they were doing drug busts and prostitution stings.
Oh
and,
my God.
And it was just wild. And you really, you gain a lot of respect for what these people do. It's a scary job and they're putting their lives on the line. And my hat's off to all the men and women who do that. But, it was just phenomenal. And, you just get to be on the front line of, so much breaking news. I'll never forget, we covered plane crashes and murders. One time we were out in the field and we had this guy who, unfortunately, he shot and killed 2 police officers, and he was barricaded in this home, right? In this neighborhood in Tampa. And so we've got, the police have the scene roped off and we're in the news vehicle, just waiting to see, are they gonna storm in? Are they gonna bring the guy out? Is he gonna surrender? And the guy comes out and he actually starts shooting, right? And everyone in the cops are screaming like, get down. And so once it was all over, the reporter I was shadowing, she says to me, well, you can go back and tell your college buddies, your college buddies, how many of you were shot at today?
Oh my gosh.
So it's a wild experience, but
Wow.
you really get to see a lot. And I think what ultimately is fun and exciting, as it is, I think what ultimately drove me out of the business after about 5 or 6 years, you just kind of get tired of the whole local television news scene. It's like, how many murders can I cover? How many car accidents can I report on? And, one day I think what really hit me, and I still remember this to this day, I come in one morning and my boss says to me, he says, we're covering this big story. There was a shooting, a robbery and a shooting at a gas station, right? He says that the clerk was shot and killed for like $60 in the cash register drawer. He says, and I want you to try to get an exclusive interview with his wife, his widow. And I looked at him and I'm thinking, okay, I know, journalists like to get, the scoop and get the story. And I'm like, you want me to call this poor widow who just lost her husband? Yeah, we got to get the story. We got to be the first one. And I called her up and I'm like, hi ma'am, my name's Bruce from Fox 13. Real sorry for your loss. Can we come out and interview you? And it just sticks with me to this day because I just felt like the scum of the earth, so low. And
wow.
It just, I'm much happier on this side. I got out of the TV news business and became a publicist and did lots of different types of PR.
What did she say?
We got the interview, and I tell you to this day, I don't know how. I don't know how we got that interview because I still feel so bad about doing that. I mean, it was my job and everything, but geez.
I gotta tell you, when I was in West Virginia, living there. I was in the satellite business, doing satellite installation stuff, and I ended up hooking up with a bunch of people in media, and like television anchor people, and the weather guy and the sports guy, and I ended up playing on this baseball team with all of them, a men's baseball league. These people were crazy. Like, they were crazy. Like, dude, you're a weather guy in West Virginia, okay? But they, you'd have thought that I was playing ball with Charlton Heston or something. I was like, dude, you're not that important. Like, stop, for real. Like, it was funny. But, they get, what I'm talking about. They get these huge egos.
Yeah, it's like, you ever see the movie Anchorman with Will Ferrell, where he's like, I'm kind of a big deal, right? It's, sometimes with some of them are very grounded, down to earth people. Others, it's like the fame or the, being on the camera all the time. It does go to their head. That's for sure. So.
It does, man. Holy moly. So, that's funny. I almost got into a fight with the weather guy. It was crazy. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, it was crazy. Like, anyway. So, so I can understand why you would want to get away from that. I mean, it does take a different kind of person, for sure.
That's for sure.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So with after you got, and you said 5 or 6 years, which is actually a long time. I mean, that's a lot of time to be in that business. But so were you like on behind the camera? I mean, you were in front, like at the desk, or?
Yeah. So I really wasn't in front of the camera. I started out as what my title was called, news assignment editor, which is really one of the people in the newsroom who helps, sort through and plan the day's coverage. You're kind of the one who, you have a folder, or these days I'm sure it's all electronic, for every day of the week. And you kind of determine, which stories are we going to cover, which stories aren't we going to cover. You're like the gatekeeper of the newsroom. Yeah. And, you kind of keep track of everything, where are all the reporters, where are all my photographers. You're updating, the latest information about breaking news. And, you're just like that, doing all the logistics and everything. And did that for a couple of years. And then, the assistant news director comes to me because I had showed some interest. I wanted to do some writing, some producing, and eventually, on camera. And I'll never forget, the assistant news director comes to me And she says, well, can you write? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can write. I've been writing forever. She says, well, can you write for TV news? And I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, I've never done it, but sure. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely, right. Like, you just got to say yes. And, those first few tries, it was pretty rough. And, I'm sure my colleagues weren't all that too enthused, but, you pick it up and, eventually I got the hang of it and became a news producer and, would write the anchor scripts for the evening news. And that was fun. That was really, I enjoyed that. You get to be creative and, you're kind of putting the words in their mouths, and it was good. I really enjoyed that, and it's like, you're on the hot seat, shuffling around your rundown for the, for that particular newscast. So it was a lot of fun. Absolutely a lot of fun. Great experience.
So you eventually, though, you decided to get out of that.
Yeah, it's just I never made it in front of the camera. I don't think you really start out as an on-air personality in a top 15 media market. You got to start out in some, in a little town like, Laredo, Texas or something, something like that, and slowly work your way up. And, and I was just like, I don't feel like going to one of these little places. And I was kind of tired and like I said, just burnt out on the whole local TV news scene. I'm like, there's got to be something better out there. And that's when I crossed into the PR world and started doing, different types of public relations. And it was funny because even, with all the different types of PR I would do, I always came back to the media side of it. I still always, I guess you just never lose that, once you're a media person, you just never lose it. And, and that's what I enjoy the best, and that's what I focus on.
So for those, the folks that are watching this right now, that don't understand because PR is a pretty broad and widely used term. I've seen people say they do PR that don't even know what PR is. So from your perspective, why don't you tell everybody kind of what a PR person or a publicist does?
Yeah, it's like you said, PR is a very broad term. You could have an event coordinator who technically calls himself a PR person, or a social media expert who says, well, sure, I'm in the PR business. But a true publicist, like myself, the goal is when I work with a client is, to get that person featured in the media, whether that's print media like, newspapers, magazines, trade journals. It could be online media, any, reputable news outlet with a .com after its name, or a blog, or it could be, broadcast media, television and radio interviews. And really what we tend to do, what my specialty is taking my clients and really showcasing their expertise for journalists. I'll give you an example. This is a bit of a high level example, but you turn on, let's say, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, whatever you want, and all day long you see interview after interview after interview with these so-called experts, right? People who are there explaining a news story. So it's somebody like myself who I'm like the matchmaker, the middle guy, who takes my client and puts him or her in front of that news producer and says, hey, you're covering this story. I've got a great expert who can speak about this. And I try to make those kind of placements happen. And, even on a smaller scale, it could be, the same setup where we know a newspaper reporter. They need to speak with experts about a topic that they're writing about. And so I'm that guy who says, hey, I've got this person, this person's a real expert in the story you're working on. You should speak to him or her. And I try to make that happen.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So you have, you've worked with some pretty famous people.
Yeah, and I've worked with, just a lot of business owners, mom and pop shops, and authors and entrepreneurs. But yeah, I've definitely had, some run-ins along the way with some pretty famous people, which is always fun. It's always fun. I did a little work. We all know Nick Cannon, right? He wasn't my direct client, but I worked on a project with Nick. Many things he's done. He used to be the host of, what was it, America's Got Talent, I think, before Tyra Banks took over.
Yeah.
But, and Nick was a nice guy, but it was so funny. I'll never forget this. We were doing this morning TV show out in, I think it was in San Diego, right? He was going live on their morning newscast. and to talk about this project we're working on. And he was so concerned about his hair, and he's had many different, hairstyles over the years. But this was a time when his hair was like super, super short. I mean, like I'm losing mine, right? But he had barely any hair left, like no hair. And he's like, I need a comb. I got to make sure my hair. And I looked at him. I'm like, Nick, you don't have any hair there. Come on, you can walk in front of the camera. Your hair's going to look the same whether you run a comb through it or not. And, just funny things. I also did some work with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Great guy, founder of the infomercial and, as seen on TV products and,
right.
Yeah, just a lot of people. Another great client of mine, Vernice Armour, goes by the nickname Fly Girl. She's America's first African-American female combat pilot. Phenomenal story. Served 2 tours in Iraq, flying around the desert.
Wow.
And now she goes out and she's a professional speaker and, speaks on leadership and motivation and just phenomenal woman. So yeah, it's exciting because you get to meet a lot of different types of people and really learn a lot about a lot of different things. That's for sure.
That is so awesome, man. So you've done a lot of pretty cool stuff, but this show is literally about having a breakthrough, and getting through the hard times. So has it always been easy for you? Did you just wake up one day and you're like, I can't believe the way that millions of dollars roll in every day? And
well, I would say millions. You and I can work on that, but absolutely not. And I'll be honest with you, there are days where even now I'm, banging my head on the wall, like we're putting out, trying to get, a journalist interested in a story or interested in a client. And I'll put together what I think is a great, what we call a media pitch. It's our outreach to journalists. And I think it's a pretty good write-up. And I'll be sitting there on some days and I'm like, gosh, why isn't anybody biting? And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Everything is in place. So absolutely, even when you hit your success and, in my case, I've worked with a lot of the big national shows, worked with, pretty much every media outlet there. Absolutely. I mean, I have days where I'm just like, come on, why can't I convert this? Why can't I get this interview? Why can't I get this media placement? And, and it's not just in that, even in other areas of my business, one of the things I can laugh at now, but man, I was mortified when this happened. So, as when you're a small business owner and people start to know you and you get your name out there and, it's quite common where people will come in and they'll say, would you, can you come speak to our group? Can you do a speaking engagement? Right. And I had never done anything like this. This is about 6-7 years ago. And I got invited to this great, small business entrepreneurial event. And they're like, oh yeah, we want you to talk to the crowd about what you do in publicity. And I didn't really know anything about keynote speaking at the time. And, I've learned quite a bit since then. And I thought it was all about getting up there and teaching. And what I learned along the way, it's kind of about, storytelling and entertaining the audience and really not putting them to sleep. So I get up there, there's this crowd of 400 or 500 people and I'm thinking, wow, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to teach them all about publicity. And, and I do that. And I come off the stage and I'm all proud of myself. I'm like, wow, that was pretty good. First time on a stage speaking to 400 people. I'm like, I killed it. Right. And, the event organizer comes up to me and he's like, well, so how do you think it went? I'm like, oh man, that was great. I'm sure they learned a lot. And he's just looking at me. He's like, not so much, Bruce. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I've gone through since then, I've done a lot of speaking on a lot of stages since then and learned, it's about the stories and entertaining and keeping the audience engaged and saving those teaching moments for other times when they bring you in for that. But to go back to your question, there's always ups and downs. And even once you think you have it figured out, something comes along and it's going to totally throw you. And that's just a part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you I know you've gotten clients on national networks, Fox, NBC, CBS, all of them. I'm sure you've gotten your clients on some talk shows and things like that. And I think that, and there's another friend of mine on here. She's a publicist out in LA. And she works primarily with rock bands, like hard rock bands. And,
yeah.
But, I think that, it takes a lot of creativity to I know that like my wife's done a little bit of that stuff, but when you're reaching out to a television network to get somebody like it's not easy, like
it's not
and it's not the saying it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? But it's really who knows you. Like, right?
Yeah, it's funny because, people, they think, well, you're a publicist, you can just automatically get me on. I hear this all the time. People will say to me, well, when are you going to get me on the Today Show? When are you going to get me on Good Morning America? And it's like, hold on a second, because there are, unfortunately, people in my business who will say, yeah, we can get you on these TV shows and we can get you in the newspaper and we can get you all these great placements and we'll make you famous. And I'm going to be honest with you, it really doesn't work that way.
Right.
Really, we're working on best efforts. Like you said, it's a lot of work. It's very competitive. And, we do the best we can. And sure, we've done some, I've got some phenomenal success stories. Yes, I put people on the Today Show and Good Morning America and the Wall Street Journal and all those places. But let's be honest, does that happen every day or every week or every month? Absolutely not, and people come in with these such high expectations and visions, which I think is great. I mean, that's phenomenal. I like somebody to be truly motivated and want to see great things happen, but you can't approach it that way because it's just not going to happen. And the other advantage too, what I try to explain to people, people say, well, I don't want to, they kind of get that a little bit of an ego where they're like, well, I can't show up in a small media market. I'm better than that. But you really do want to show up there because any media opportunity you have, you always want to say yes to it because number one, you never know who's going to see it. You never know who it's going to resonate with. Number two, it's all credibility. It's all major credibility and sort of like a silent endorsement from that media outlet to you that says, hey, this person is an expert. This person has something important to say. There's a reason this person is our guest. And, and number three, once you do have the opportunity to do a national TV show, CNN, Today Show, whatever it is, you're going to be more prepared. You're going to be more confident. If I were to put a client on the Today Show the first time out of the gate, I'm not going to feel too confident about that because they've never been in a TV studio. They are not experienced with, fielding questions from the anchor. They're not, accustomed to that live environment where anything can happen. So there's a reason, we like to start slow, and it's not that the publicist is trying to take your money, but like you were saying, it's difficult. Those aren't things, those big national placements, they happen, but they don't happen all the time.
Well, and I think that, like in the beginning, there's no way, like I'm sure you can call the Wall Street Journal or you could call the Fox News or whatever, and you probably know people there now, and there are people that know you. But day one, they're like, Bruce who? Like, no, click, like, and again, I'm making assumptions, but like, it's not, it takes time, and so many people get into a business or they have a great idea and they want to blow it up and they want to hire a publicist, and maybe they even have investors and can afford a publicist, right? And so they give you all this money, and then they're like sitting there 30 days later going, what's going on? Why haven't you got me on Good Morning America? It's like, wait a minute, like everybody take a deep breath and relax for a minute. This takes a little bit more time, right?
Exactly. I've had plenty of people who come to me and they say, well, can I hire you for 30 days? And I'm like, well, technically, I suppose you could hire me for 30 days, but, it's the people who generally stick with the process. I've had clients who've been with me 8, 9, 10 years, because they just recognize the value of it. And, and it's funny because sometimes with these long-term clients, we'll look back at, when we started together, at what they were getting back then, compared to the publicity that they're getting now, and it's night and day. So there certainly is a process, a building up process, like you said. And, it does help, sure. Can I pick up the phone and call a producer at Fox News or a reporter at the Wall Street Journal? I can. But I'll tell you this, I mean, sure, it definitely helps to have those connections and people who you know.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I've had plenty of journalists who, we have a great working relationship. I would even consider some of them friends, but I've had some of them who've turned me down, who've said, no, I think you're great, Bruce, but this story's really not strong enough, or this person you're trying to sell me on to speak to, I don't think this is a good match for me. So at the end of the day, it still comes down to the story we're selling or the expert we're trying to get the interview. So it does help to know those people and to work with them on a regular basis and to have those relationships. But yeah, it's what am I offering you right now? Is this a good fit for what I need?
Right. I just had somebody on Facebook Live ask, is hiring a publicist expensive, or does it vary depending on services? It's a great question.
It's all across the board.
Yeah.
This is so crazy. I had somebody come to me last week, and she said to me, she says, I've talked to a couple of firms in New York City, and they seem to have a good plan, a good outline. I think they're going to do a good job, but I can't afford it. And I said, I'm just curious, what are they charging you? And she actually showed me the proposal, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty much, word for word what we would do, how we would approach it.
Right.
And their price, they wanted $22,500 a month. And I was just blown away by that. I'm
$22,000 a month?
$22,000. And I was
0.5.
22.5, not 2.5, 22.5 a month, right? And I was just like, this is just ridiculous, right? I'm like, I need to move to New York and raise my rates, apparently. I don't know, but...
Get the hell out of Florida, Bruce. What are you doing?
Get the hell out of Florida, exactly. But no, it is all across the board. We charge, my firm, we charge $3,000 a month, and we work month by month with clients. There are some firms, they want to lock you into a 6-month deal, a 1-year deal. I like to go 1 month at a time. I don't like to be locked into anything, be it publicity or any kind of contract,
Right. Right.
But again, we explain to clients, 30 days, no. I tell people, give it 3 or 4 good months to see if this is something that's really a good fit, if we're able to generate publicity, what are the results we're getting, and then evaluate it. But yeah, some of the prices out there, it's absurd. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and some of that can be for sure. Again, I mean, all things being equal, I think that if it's worth that, right? I mean, if you said, Ken, give me $25,000 a month, and I'm going to make you, after 4 months, you'll be making $1 million a month, dude, I'm in.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm in.
Absolutely.
Here's my credit card number. Let's roll. So, but I mean, you gotta. Here's something else that I see, and I would consider myself a social media branding expert. And but here's something I see. I see a lot of people that think going live on Facebook is going to make them famous. Now, I do agree that will definitely play a big part, but there's strategy. You have to have a strategy. You can't just go live and talk about nonsense. Like, you have to have a strategy. So, how about touching on that a little bit from a publicist perspective? And because you and I know that Facebook is the new TV, Facebook Live. I mean, there's people, I've gone live at 9 o'clock at night, Bruce, and it's the most popular time of the day to go live because, everybody's sitting around watching primetime Facebook.
Right.
It's
right. I'll tell you what really drives me crazy, as a publicist on that side of it. It's like I was saying, I'll go to a client and I'll say, hey, I've got this opportunity for you. This reporter with this daily paper in market 150, right? There's about 210, 215 media markets out there. I'll say, oh, market 157 wants to speak to you. Or, hey, I've got a morning TV opportunity for you when you're going to be out in Boise, Idaho, or someplace like that, right? And they're like, oh, no, I'm above that. That's not good enough. But then they're the same people, hey, here I am on Facebook Live, everybody. Hi, how you doing? And it's like, okay, wait a minute. You just turned down an opportunity, in front of thousands of people potentially, but you're here doing your Facebook Lives in front of a handful, maybe 50, 100 people at the most or something like that. And that's what drives me crazy. But it's like you're saying, there's a value in everything. There absolutely is a value in Facebook and Facebook Live. But I think really it's about an all-encompassing plan and having a strategy that really hits on everything. You know, it's not just publicity, it's not just social media, it's not just advertising or YouTube. It's kind of just, you know, a little bit of everything. And like you said, really knowing what it is that I want to accomplish. What am I trying to do by, you know, by getting out there? I mean, the one thing that I personally, you know, the reason I do publicity and the one thing I like about the media is because if you look at other platforms, right, whether it's advertising, whether it's social media, those are vehicles that are available to everybody, right? I can go to my local paper and buy an ad and they'll run it. I can go on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and everybody can do that. But then you say, well, how many people in your industry do you know who are, you know, being quoted in the press and showing up on TV and doing radio interviews? And it's like, oh, you know, not that many. And even if you expand out on that, you say, well, how many people, not just in your field, but how many people do you know who are these media experts? And it's like, yeah, I don't know that many. So all of a sudden we have this platform that not everybody is in, or they don't know how to take advantage of it. And for those few people, it's like this, it's major, major credibility. And it says something that, you know, they're there and everybody else isn't. So that's what I've always liked about the media.
Right. And I think, you know, to make the point, you know, this is a pretty popular show on Facebook. But it's also, I have a what's it called? It's a TV channel on Binge Network. So it's broadcast on Amazon and Roku and Sony and all of, you know, Apple TV, all that. But you know, if I were to get a call from, you know, Fox News or CNBC and they said, hey, we want to interview you at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on October the 17th, I would not say, oh, I can't do that. I have Bruce Serbin on my show.
Come on, Ken. Really? I thought we were very close to that.
I wouldn't care if it was Grant Cardone on the show. Like, dude, we got to reschedule. Fox News wants me on. You're out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I would do it too.
And it's not because it's what you said a minute ago. People need to understand that, yes, Facebook Live is awesome if you have a strategy and you're not full of crap and you're actually talking about something of value and you're helping people. That's cool. But, dude, like, media controls this world. And if I can get on Fox News or I can get on CNBC, I'm sorry, Bruce, we're canceling your interview.
Hey, I get it.
Right?
It. Yeah, absolutely. You want to be there. Of course. I mean, it's, you know, and there's so many reasons. It's, you know, potentially exposure to thousands and thousands of people. And then when, you know, obviously the bigger the media outlet, they all have, you know, partnerships and sister, you know, stations and affiliates that could potentially pick something up. And, you know, a great strategy, something, you know, that I like to see all my clients do is, you know, use your social media as part of your publicity. So let's say you get on a morning TV show. Well, guess what? Not only are you going to get the exposure from, you know, that appearance, but then take the link and post it on your Facebook, post it on your Twitter and LinkedIn. It's like exposure for the exposure. Really, you know, what I see is the people who leverage their media are the ones who are the most successful. I'll give you a quick example. Like, so many times I'll work with an author, right? Now I wrote this new book and I want to get out there and talk about it, right? So we'll get them a morning TV show and they run home and, you know, the first thing they do is they run to Amazon or you know, and they're looking, well, how many books did I sell? How many books did I sell? And then I get this phone call, and they're all pissed off, right? Well, I don't understand. I didn't sell any books, or I sold one or two books, and why is that, right? I was in front of thousands and thousands of people. Why didn't anybody buy my book? And, you know, like I said, it's really the people who leverage the media and just use it to build up, you know, take that credibility and just use it in every way possible are the ones who are the most successful. Great example. I've got a client, a guy by the name of Steve Siebold. And what he does, he's gotten so much TV exposure. He actually created a website, a standalone website for all of his TV, appearances. It's actually a real website. You can go to www.steveontv.com and you'll see like 150, 200 of these interviews. And anytime he's on the phone with a prospect, right? Like he's a professional speaker. So anytime he's on the phone with a company that wants to bring him in for a speech, he'll say to them, well, are you in front of a computer? And the person will say, yeah, I'm in front of the computer. And he'll say, well, type this website, steveontv.com. And they go there and they're looking at it and there's like a moment of silence and they're like, holy cow, who is this guy?
Right.
He's everywhere. We want to bring him in. So it's really taking your media and leveraging the heck out of it in every way you possibly can. And that's how you're going to be successful with it.
Amen. I agree so much. It's like, Grant Cardone has been on Fox News and CNBC and all these different, and he's been interviewed by, I forget what that big financial, it's a web-based thing, but anyway, and he uses all of that. My wife, you and I were talking before the show that she did all the PR for the Florida State Fair this past year, right?
Yeah, right.
And they had her going to all the local, these local TV outlets and the newspapers and doing interviews, and
Sure.
She was on TV sitting at the news desk. Well, we got the actual raw file of that video. The news stations will send it to you. All you have to do is ask. And then, like, guess what I did with that? I posted it. Like, wow, check this out. My wife was on the morning news in wherever it was. She's on here. She loves you. Well, you guys have met, or at least virtually.
Right.
But we use that, and it's one of those things. Like, I've been on TV, and I have too. I've been interviewed by the local news station in West Virginia on a long story, but anyway, and it's like that builds so much credibility in people's eyes. I have maybe one of the top Facebook shows in the world. It wouldn't matter as much as being on CNBC.
Right. It's huge. And again, people I don't think they necessarily understand just how powerful it is. Right. But like I said, it's really, hey, I've got to put this to work, for me and for my business and for my book. Again, if you just sit there and you get quoted, you show up on TV and radio and you do these things, I'm not saying that you won't see a result from that alone, but I'm telling you, after all these years, it's the people who take that and know how to market it and leverage into that credibility. They're the ones who see the most success from it. And it drives me nuts because I've got so many people who get such great publicity and they don't do anything with it. And it's like, it drives me nuts because it's like, what's the point? Why are you wasting this opportunity?
Right. But I had Dr. Cherie Carter Scott on the show, and she's a client of mine, and we're building a website with her or for her, and she was on Oprah, and Oprah somehow got a hold of her book, and I forget which book it was, but she got a hold of her book. I think it's If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules. And she sold, I think, over 4 million copies in 40 different languages. But when she was on Oprah, she hadn't sold that many. So Oprah got a hold of this book and loved the book and said, I want her on the show or something like that. And so they got her on the show. And literally, she said, the aftermath of being on Oprah. This is a broad or a big statement, but I think Oprah's probably the most powerful media woman in the world. Right?
I would agree. I would totally agree with you.
So if you're on Oprah and Oprah holds up your book and she says to her audience and the camera, "Go get this book now," right? So she said, and she said, we were not ready for this. We were not ready for what happened. And so she said her book wasn't even published yet. Like, it wasn't ready for purchase. She's like,
well, okay, let's backtrack a second. going against what I said, if you're on Oprah and Oprah holds up your book, it's game over, right? It's a totally different ball game than
Right?
what we're talking about your local paper or even your local morning TV show.
Yeah, right.
Oprah's a completely different league. I mean, it's just nothing like that. So of course, that book is going to jump up, the rankings, probably become a bestseller, New York Times, Wall Street Journal bestseller, and sell out like crazy.
It did.
Yeah, so that's a totally different game when you have someone as powerful and recognized.
Right.
Wow, that's a game changer.
I'll tell you, my wife just said, follow Bruce's advice. Well-rounded, comprehensive strategy is important. And that's so true. It's so true. You gotta, I mean, again, a shotgun approach definitely can make some dents, right, if you're up close. But a very strategic laser rifle approach, depending on what you're trying to do, can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I tell you, anyone who's out there and they're thinking, gosh, I'd love to get some publicity, best tip I could give you, just really follow. The easiest way to get publicity is follow the headlines, follow what's going on, and then say, well, this is my expertise. I can speak about this event. Something's happening, and it might not be an everyday kind of a thing. And obviously, it's a real crazy political environment out there right now, which is eating up a lot of space, unfortunately. But when your area of expertise comes into play and they're covering that, that's when you want to jump in and knock on their door. Hey, Mr. Journalist, I'm here. I'm your expert. Let me speak to you. Let me offer some advice. That's the best way for sure.
Right. So a couple of questions for you here.
Sure.
I've got Brenda Phillips says, so sending your book as gifts to influencers is a great idea, right? Yes.
Sure. Again, any strategy, you want to encompass different things. Generally speaking, with publicity, we don't just on the first shot, send books all over the country.
Right,
the way at least we tend to typically do it is, we do our outreach and we try to get them, interested in, hey, can I see the book? Can I speak to this author? I'd like to review the book. I'd love to see the book. And then we send it. I've tried that where let me just randomly send out some books and it seems to work better the other way. But no harm in sending it to influencers and, asking
the challenge is, and I'm not saying I'm a huge influencer because I'm not on Cardone's level or but I have a little bit of that. But I get a lot of books from people that send them to me, right? And hey, and I have people on the show that I say, hey, come on and promote your book. Jeffrey Gitomer just wrote a huge Napoleon Hill book, and it comes out on October 31st, I think. And he was on the show. We were promoting the book, pre-promoting it, right? But he's a guy that's sold millions and millions. He's written 14 books or 15 books, and he's been a New York Times #1 best-selling author multiple times. So, but if you're just getting started and it's your first book and nobody knows who you are and you send it to influencers, it's probably not going to get read.
Right. I mean, again, it's not a very expensive strategy.
Sure.
It might be a little time consuming. It's worth a shot, but who knows? They get, like you said, you get a lot of books and they're getting a lot of books. So yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
So my wife says, Bruce, what kind of clients do you work with? How can people connect with you? That's a great question, which I was going to ask, but she asked,
Sure.
So let's roll.
Sure, absolutely. I don't know, I've kind of fallen into lately, mental health has been huge. I love a psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, social worker. We could do a lot with those types. Any kind of doctor. Health is important. We've done, financial advisors, certain types of attorneys, lifestyle. I've got a lady who's an etiquette expert, and we're setting the world on fire right now. Another one. She's
a what kind of expert?
Etiquette expert. I never, like a Miss Manners type thing. This is how you use your fork. This is how you use your silverware. I went out to lunch with her and I was terrified, right? I'm like, am I eating right? I was scared, right? But I'm serious. True story. I was terrified.
Oh my God, I wouldn't. Yeah.
But really, anyone who's definitely someone who's got an expertise that's in the news a lot, that's definitely an easy sell. Authors are a great one. I love lifestyle topics. Those are great morning TV topics. Anything lifestyle driven. So yeah, just a lot of different. One thing I'm trying to back off of a little bit. I hate to say this because I love these people. Are the motivational speaker types, and don't get me wrong, it's not a personal, thing or anything, but it's getting hard to sell when you have someone, it's a great book, and you're giving you all this uplifting and positive advice, but it's like you can only sell the positive thinking and overcome the obstacles, so many times. It's definitely gotten a lot harder to say. So you really want to say something different, unique, and stand out from the crowd. That would be my best advice, someone with that kind of message.
Yeah. And so what did you say where they can follow you?
Sure. I mean, website's serbinmedia.com, and I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm on Twitter. Don't really use it all that much, but I'm on there. So yeah.
What about Instagram?
Yeah, my daughter's gotten an Instagram account. They're all the 13-year-olds sharing their pictures. It's not really my thing, but I guess you could follow her if you want. But no, it's not my thing.
Dude, the Instagram's huge now.
That's what everyone's telling me that. I just got to jump on the wagon, I guess.
Yeah. Sounds like we could trade services. I'll help you.
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, so is there, for the person right now that's watching this that's stuck, that maybe they can't pay their bills, their electric's getting shut off. And I ask everybody this question. So, maybe, and you've probably been there like, oh my God, we're getting the electric shut off. What are we going to do? Or I just watched my car get repossessed. Like I've had that happen in front of employees. That was not a fun day. But we all go through it. You may deal with some of the most famous people in the world, but and it looks really cool. Like, hey, I'm this guy's. I've helped him get. But dude, we've all been through it. All of us. Some of the most famous actors and actresses in the world have been through it. And so that person that's stuck, that's lost all hope, and they don't know what to do, and they feel like giving up, throwing in the towel, do whatever. What would you say to that person? What do you say?
Been there more times than I care to remember. That's for sure. We all have. One thing, I guess this maybe goes against what most people would say, or the opposite. When I'm having one of those times or one of those days, sometimes I just, I'm like, I hate to, it's like, screw this. I'm out of here. I'm taking a break. I just walk away from it. It's like, if I tend to just sit there and focus so hard on it and put all this time into effort, it's almost like, the more time I spend on something sometimes, it's like it works against me. And I tend to have my best ideas when I'm not thinking about what I need to be thinking about. I could be, eating a meal with my family, taking a shower, or, hear people wake up in the middle of the night and they have this great idea to grow their business. And that's how it's worked for me. It's like, just put it down for a minute, just go for a walk, go do something, free up your mind and let it come to you. And I know there's times where you really just got to be laser focused, but it's, for me anyway, the more I try, the harder I try, sometimes it seems to work against me. But I would just say, know this, that, those tough times are, they're temporary, and we've all been there. I know that sounds so cliche to say we've all been there, but it is true. And it really does, make you stronger when you come through it and you get on the other side of it and you get in control of it. It does definitely make you stronger. So just hang tight. And, one thing I would tell you, doing a lot of work with these mental health professionals, I could tell you, don't hold it in, find someone to talk to about it, because, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, as you know, Ken, it's stressful. It can eat at you. I've had friends, it's anxiety, depression, things like that. Don't hold it in. Find someone to talk to and get it off your chest. You don't need to go through it yourself. That's for sure.
Amen, man. Amen. Just make sure you're talking to the right people, because some people say, well, you should just go get a job and not be and I heard that.
I've thought that at times, trust me.
And it's like, no, you get a job. I'm not giving up, which actually is motivation, right? For me, like somebody tells me go get a job that's on like Donkey Kong, man. I'm not, like, okay, I get it. I just need to make some more cold calls or something, like, like turn it up. But anyway, so Bruce, hey, listen, if everybody watching this, make sure you're following Bruce Serbin. Send him a friend request. Bruce, will you publicly agree to accept all my friends?
Absolutely. You're a good guy. Like, absolutely.
I appreciate
for sure.
it. So make sure you're following Bruce. Connect with him. He's a great guy. Bruce, if you get a chance, there's some questions that were asked I know we didn't answer. So maybe if you get an opportunity, you could pop in and answer some. But, dude, thank you so much, man. You're a great guy. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so thank you all very much for watching. Really appreciate you. Make sure you follow Bruce and check him out at bruceserbin.com or serbinmedia.com. And, go follow him. Guys, have a great day. Thanks a lot, Bruce.
Thank you.